Last week, a gentleman posted in one of the forums I'm a member of, what is the best mode to employ a light when using your primary hand to maintain grip on a firearm? Now, personally, a firearm is always a good tool, but it's just one tool in a multiple toolbox. I'm a big fan of, if you can't see it and you cannot identify it, you don't shoot at it. More hunters need to pay attention to this sort of rule so that we have less hunting accidents each year. Granted, that didn't help with the daylight shooting by our own Dick Cheney, but hey, that's a giggle for another time. You can go with any kind of light throughout this. You can go with cheap lights, mediocre lights, expensive lights, or ridiculous lights. These, with 3 or more LEDs, are nice, but they're a low light, a low casting light. They don't get out. The light itself, the beam, will not get out too far. It's not too bad when you're inside of a small apartment or a home. Again, the cost of the light itself is pretty cheap. I think I picked that one up for like $15 or something along those lines. Surefire makes a good light. I think this is the G2. I don't know. Some idiot on the internet's probably going to pick me apart. It's an L2 level 3. Who gives a crap? It's a freaking flashlight. It's made by Surefire. I think I picked it up for about 35, 40 bucks. It's got a tail cap light. I'm sorry, a tail cap switch. I can turn it and leave it in the on position, or I can simply hit the button. If I get the tail cap in the right position, I can just push it to the side and get my light to go on to illuminate. This is the same light. I got it in yellow because when you drop a flashlight in the dark and it's black, it blends in with all the quote-unquote black, otherwise known as shadows. So yellow is a little easier for me to see. I don't exactly have aging eyes, but in the dark I like to give myself every advantage I can. I've added a compliance device to the end of my bezel, which is kind of mean looking, but I did it more for the cool factor than anything else. Look, yeah, my flashlight's yellow, but it's still kind of cool. More of a joke than anything else. It does assist in gaining compliance to people. In my normal job as a security officer and a trainer, I've used that more than a couple times to get somebody to pay a little more attention to me. This is a Blackhawk Xiphos light. It's a really super bright light. I think this one's right around 125 lumens. But it has a nice strobe feature, which even in low light or complete darkness type situations, it's really, really beneficial to have that extra advantage of the strobing feature. I'm not going to turn it on and point it at the light, or I'm sorry, point it at the camera, because that would just be mean and it would probably blow out the sensors in my camera. This light is commonly brighter than the headlights on your car. You can usually pick these up with the holster that accommodates both your weapon combination and light, for right around 140, 150 bucks. Again, some internet nerd's going to call me out on the exact price of that, but again, I'm just guessing. I'm not going to hunt eBay for you. That's your job. This is another Surefire light. I added an extender to it, which allows me to mount it on my rifle, my carbine, and add a third battery to it. Again, it's a taillight switch, and this thing is brighter than the high beams on most HID systems in high-end cars like Cadillacs. It's super expensive. I don't generally recommend this to people because these lights in this configuration run ridiculous amounts. I'm not even going to say it because it's pretty embarrassing. As far as grip goes, any grip will do. If you're using a small light, you want to make sure that your hand is in some manner where you can hit the switch in a natural way. If you're holding onto a firearm, some people like to hold it like this. Some people will tell you that you've got to pin it with your thumb. so that you can press it right up against the firearm and still make it to the control surface of whatever light you're using. That same grip can be employed back here just by modifying the position of your thumb during mount. I'm not a huge fan of this, primarily because my primary hand, irregardless of whether or not it's my right hand or my left hand, its primary function should be holding the gun. There should be no adaptation of your primary hand to make use of a secondary light source. Whether you're holding the flashlight like this, so that you can press it from the rear, or you're employing a knuckle over so that you can press the light against the knuckles of your primary hand to engage the light switch itself. Any of these will do, but personally myself, I like, if I'm using a non-mounted light, I like to employ a grip that looks similar to this. When people are taught, they're taught to pull their support hand back and press their primary hand forward. By pulling your support hand back and pressing your primary hand into it, you get esoteric or isometric balance so that you can hold the firearm steady. If I employ this type of grip for my light, I can still pull back with my support hand and press forward with my primary. Again, right-handers, left-handers, it doesn't really make a difference. Either technique works for you. That being said, personally, I'm a fan of weapon-mounted lights of any kind. If you go online, I'm sure you can find a $50 light. You can find a $300 light. It's really up to you, your budget, and your weapon system. But I like weapon-mounted lights for a couple of reasons. The first one being the ease of switch control. It's ambidextrous, a good one will be, and it's always on your firearm. If you buy a holster that accommodates both your weapon and light combination, you'll never have to wonder, did I bring my light with me? If I'm working or training in daylight hours, the light is still on my gun. My holster accommodates it, I don't care. I don't take it off and switch holsters and change this and that. It's always in the same configuration. The other nice thing about having a weapon-mounted light is simply you never forget the thing. There's been countless stories of individual homeowners that the wife taps the husband in the middle of the night and says, "Honey, I hear a noise." So the husband rolls over groaning, grabs his firearm and goes down the stairs and either shoots their roommate or, heaven forbid, one of their children. As I said in the beginning of this, shooting an unintentional target is unacceptable, regardless of whether or not it's some guy looking for your silverware who's just going to sit down compliantly if you point a gun at him, or it's your child. If you cannot positively identify a target as a threat, you should not be squeezing the trigger. Will every crackhead looking for your silverware sit down compliantly when you point a gun at them? No. Should you expect them to? No. Is that what I am saying? No. What I am saying is you should positively identify your target before squeezing the trigger. Let me reiterate. You should positively identify your target as a threat before pulling the trigger. Now, if your light is already mounted to the weapon, then when you wake up at 2:30 in the morning, all sleepy-eyed and buggied because you heard a bump in the night, it's one less thing for you to have to worry about. Your light is always there, your light is always handy, your light is always good. At that point, the only thing you have to worry about is battery life. Most of these lights all take the same battery, so I have to worry about one battery for multiple lights. The fewest answers for the most questions. That's my motto. Now, other techniques for holding the light are holding the light high above your head so that when you come around the corner and you're positively identifying your threat, in that moment it takes you to identify it, your threat will reflexively turn his attention towards the light. 9 times out of 10, this blinds your opponent or your threat, but not always. Some threats will actually reflexively shoot towards the light. Well, here's the thing. If your light is 9 feet above your head, they're obviously not thinking, oh my god, I'm against a giant. If you hold the firearm far out to either your right or left side with your support hand, you are taking your support hand away from its job, which is supporting and steadying the firearm. There's grips I've already demonstrated that will simply add support to the firearm. My recommendation is practice one of those and make use of it. Does it have to be my technique? No. But walking around your house with 2 hands together is far more natural than walking around the house with one arm 9 feet in the frickin' air, holding a flashlight. You're a human being, not a lighthouse. Again, that being said, you're going to practice whatever works best for you. The old school method of holding the light out far to one side is useless in the confines of your home, primarily because if you try and go through a doorway with your arm extended fully out to your side, it's going to do you no good. You're not going to get through the door with the benefit of the light. Either the gun's not going to get through the doorway or the light's going to bump against the side of the door frame. The extended flashlight technique was originally designed for law enforcement working outside their patrol vehicle and outside the confines of a building. Primarily because if you're holding your arm out at a full extension or even partial extension, it's very easy for an assailant you didn't see to grab your arm and pull you off balance, or to shoot at you from your rear. Again, ladies and gentlemen, these are my little observations, my training techniques. Again, I'm sure some internet nerd's going to pull apart my mentality. That's okay. I've got my experiences, you've got yours, and I do not play Call of Duty. God bless all. I hope this is helpful. If it's not, do more research. Don't believe everything you read on the internet. Have a good one. Bye.